That's
say
great.
it.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. I hear the cheers in the audience. But I actually have, we actually have a format where people can send me their Skype information and then I can call them. And I actually have someone who wants to ask you a question, Jeff. So
Okay,
I'm just going to give them a ding on Skype here.
sure.
And we're going to ask the question and see what they have to say. So, oh, there we go. Hello.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead. Ingrid, is that you?
It is.
Okay, that's great. So, what's your question for Jeff?
Okay. So first I just want to say, Jeff, this has been amazing.
Mhm.
This is so great.
Thank you.
I am not sure what I anticipated, but it wasn't this. I was so pleasantly surprised.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
I've loved it.
Mm.
My question is, having so it's a two part question. The first is, the task of becoming self-regulated and being able enough to be able to monitor thoughts,
Mm.
stop them, and realize in the moment that you're in the 0 point and you can pivot, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You have the ability to pivot.
Yeah.
And if you have the ability to recognize that what's been created has been created from past intention
Yeah.
setting, mostly unconscious.
Yeah.
And so utilizing the ability to pivot requires a level of consciousness that has to be developed. It's not like just anybody can do it. You
Yeah.
have to become aware of thoughts. And so this sounds really great. And it is absolutely something that I teach and that I do and that I am still practicing. It's a practice.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm curious about where this individual ability to manifest and really manipulate time, space, and space time, where it meets the collective and how we are all collectively creating. Can you speak to that at all?
So were there two questions? One about the mind, uh, or
So, so Ingrid, are you talking about, for example, the ability to create as an individual and how that fits in with how we create as a group? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes. Well, it was more making an observation about the development
Okay.
of being more conscious and more self-regulated,
Mhm.
being
right?
able to pause and uh, take responsibility for what's been created and make a different choice, right?
Yeah.
So that requires consciousness development for people. It's
Right.
not just something, it's not just about like, oh, I want this, so I'm going to focus on this and I'm going to get this.
Right.
Mhm.
If you're unconscious, you're creating unconsciously.
Mhm.
And if you haven't cleaned and cleared yourself
Mhm.
from your ego, from your traumas, from your densities, that's mostly where you're creating from,
Yeah.
unconscious.
Right. Yeah.
Um, so that's more of a statement.
Right.
And my question is, for
Mm.
someone who is on this path of practice,
Yeah.
attempting to be more conscious, attempting to participate in a joyous co-creation of everything, where and how does this individual creation come into contact with the collective creation?
Yeah. So my personal experience, this is great questions, and your first point is bang on, and I totally agree. And I have I can only emphasize meditation as the tool that gets us aware of our thoughts, and therefore strengthens the ability to redirect the thought. And you're totally correct that coming at this with the baggage of of a mind that has not attempted to practice self-control, I guess, or to discipline itself, is 100% is only going to create hindrances in that ability. So you've just kind of nailed it, and I really like the way you described it. So it's really great. So yeah, to the second point, my personal experience is that everyone's visioning, and we can actually vision some people getting doing things that we desire them to do. And I do believe that I think actually I've been told this, and I think it's 100% accurate. The strongest vision wins. So someone might not be aware that they have a vision, and you have a vision that opposes their vision, and your vision could win. And I don't mean win, but I do mean that you know, we're all creating, and that's the whole bottom line. At every second, at every moment, everybody's a part of the collective making a creation. And yeah, your desire, I can only imagine that there's just a multiplicity of things going on here that are maybe not always consistent to with the collective. But in some cases, in the case where I got a job and I was able to vision it, what's obvious to me is that I had a God desire, I had a desire of the source, and it manifested a space in the job. And then all of a sudden, when I'm in that job, I'm in the proper place that to affect everybody else. And now I'm in this new job, and I become friends with certain people, and I impact them, and they impact me, and everything was part of like a collective agreement, if you will, on some other level that just looked like I got a new job. And so there was obviously something going on in space time there that allowed me to step into that space that involved my desire and me visioning and manifesting. And so there's a game that goes on there. But there's also scenarios here where I've tried visioning. I want certain people to, I want to be interacting with certain people, and I can't make it happen. But I'm constantly visioning it. But what happens is a manifestation that has nothing to do with the person, but is also a fulfillment of the feeling. So I was never able to manifest anything from the individual, but the feeling was materialized. The vision materialized in another way. So it's actually kind of like it was just showing me that I couldn't get that person to materialize the vision, but in other cases I have been able to do it. I've been able to vision, desire a certain friend that I wanted certain something from, and I was like, I'm going to vision it, and I got it from them. And I won't go into those details. So, but what that shows me is that it's complex. People have there's visions going off on every single individual in the collective, and I think at times we can influence it, and at other times we can't, and at other times we're supposed to, like the job where I'm like, it obviously was some kind of something where the universe was in me, it was all perfectly timed, and I materialized it, and then I'm all of a sudden impacting these people's lives, and they're impacting mine. And so I guess I didn't have the full answer to the question, but I was aware that it's complex. And I think that again, what it comes back to, what I believe it is the strongest vision wins. And I don't like using the word win, but it's the strongest vision materializes. Maybe is probably the best way to frame that. Um, so that's my experience with the collective aspect of this. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, what makes it the strongest vision, right? Because that starts
Source.
with willpower, like my will is stronger than your will.
Yeah, I
And
think I
that's
think
the
drawing from
vision
source. I think if
of a collective that I'm interested in.
yeah, the drawing from source, I think is going to create the most power you could ever generate for your coming from your higher self purely. And that's an exercise. That's not something
Yeah,
you would just do willy-nilly. I'm going to start drawing from my higher self. It's something that you have to live a life designed to do, right? You have to live a life that's coming that exercises source, a relationship with source, a relationship with higher self. And then in those moments, yeah, you might be able to vision things for other people. And I've been able to do that. And I've been able to help people with that too. Someone who lost their dog, I helped them with their dog. In fact, someone called me up and said, "Can you vision my dog found? Because I know you're good at this." And I visioned it, and their dog came back to them like 5 minutes later, and they thanked me for it. And so I'm able to do that because yeah, I have a practice where I focus on source, and I think that helps create, the power, the engine, uh, in these kind of circumstances. And of course, that was for a pure cause as well, too, right? I'm trying to help them, and so I'm caring for them in that moment, and I'm really concerned for them. And I think all those things create that purity, the love, and that purity is a real driver for visions, and it's the God driver. Everything that you can almost identify as God, purity and love are going to create the more powerful vision. That's what I believe. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Ingrid, for calling into the show.
Thank you, Ingrid. Yeah.
As I've always pointed out, if anybody wants to call in and ask a question directly to our speaker, in this case, it's Jeff, but if ever you guys want to call in and ask a question, you could do so by sending me your Skype information, and then I can call you. So thank you again, Ingrid, for that question. And I just want to sort of just jump in here just a little bit with, I know that Ingrid mentioned the whole collective thing. And what I find interesting about the concept of the collective is the fact that we as humans, and we touched upon it before, Jeff, when we were talking, is that we as a people on this planet have been controlled. And because we're such powerful beings, the powers that be have been using that to manifest what they want in this society, influencing us through media or influencing us through deception and creating a certain kind of world that we're in. And I feel what's interesting what's happening now, and sort of going back into the idea of the collective, is that as a collective, we as a people are trying to say, wait a minute, I don't want to just live in this world that is going to be doom and gloom, or is only going to make a certain amount of people rich, or is only going to give a certain amount of power to certain people. I think we're now as a collective starting to turn around and say, you know what, wait a minute, maybe we should work together as a whole. And they're trying to, through the use of media, give the impression that there's only certain people that are in charge or certain people that have power. But when we as people, we really do have a lot of power, and we are making changes. And I find that 2025 is going to be one of those years where we realize that through our power of thought and through our own agency, we are going to be able to bring about the world that we want to live. Like, be the world you want to live in, be the people you want to be in. And I think that through thought, especially through what you're talking about, Jeff, through visioning, is that we're learning to take back our power, and we're learning as a collective to take back our power, and learning as a collective to use that power for the greater good, for the greater collective, and not to make this guy rich or that guy rich or that person, have more power. So it's a war right now for our minds. And I think that when you talk about the strongest vision winning, I think that's the vision that's starting to win. It used to be the other vision before, the negativity, but that's starting to fall apart. And I think that the collective vision of wanting a better world is the one that's starting to win. And you don't see it in the media because they're hiding it. But we are the ones that are going to make that happen. So I think that this is sort of tying on what Ingrid was saying. I think that's sort of where we're headed with that. It's excuse me, we're learning to sort of control that. But just wanted to see if anybody else had any questions. I know that here we had a comment through I think Bill Simmons. He says, do you need to talk out loud to God, or can you just use your thoughts silently?
Of course, yeah.
So if you're on a bus so you don't look like a weirdo.
Please, God.
How do you do that?
Yeah. No, of course. It's all going to be personal. So for some people, it'll be going down to the rivers. For some people, it'll be climbing the mountain. For some people, it's in meditation. I actually just recommend making it as personal for yourself as possible. So however that is for you. And if that's through your thoughts while you're on the couch, let it be. For some people, it's speaking. Yeah. And I think it's self-discovery. That's the whole thing about self-discovery. And it's going to manifest for you in a way that is, a part of you. And so however you feel is the best way to do that, you're going to have that knowledge. And I think that that's the key. And then if that doesn't work, then you keep trying. You look for something new that generates that will inside yourself to make that connection. That's the most important part. It isn't actually the method. it's the drive. Have that desire. You have to have that desire. Have the desire, and however it wants to manifest, let it be that way. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I have an interesting question here from Jet Saturn. He says here, how can I find a guru? I mean, that's a deep question. We'll
Very
be here
deep,
all
yeah.
night. But
Yeah.
you want to tell us how you found your guru and maybe sort of maybe give us some tips as to what some
Yeah.
might, 'cause I know you have an interesting story about behind how you found your guru.
Yeah. Yeah. When the student is ready, the guru will come.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big line. And it's pretty real. The other side to it is you can actually vision a guru. And I agree with doing something like that, however that would work for you. Um, so otherwise, you know, it's really about the personal connection. And yeah, you have to be ready for something like that. And for me, it was a part of my path. At the time, it didn't feel like that. I was just listening to the synchronicities that were happening in my life. And you're correct, Crystal. The aliens themselves were actually involved in sending me there. And I met my partner who was following the guru, and so we fell in love. And she had a guru, and so when I came back to Toronto, I ended up following him as well too. And it was all kind of a alignment that was very perfect at the time. And so that was obviously a part of my path to do that, and I'm very grateful for it. And the only thing I can say is that, yeah, when the student is ready, the guru comes. That's the bottom line. And again, that drive, you have to want that drive. And I totally recommend visioning it. I actually think that gurus can come in many forms, and that's the other part too. It doesn't have to be, the regular guru per se, but it can come in many forms. But I think that if you were ardent and you desired that and you stuck to it and you visioned it, I believe something would come. So, yeah.
Okay. And I also had another question from Jet Setter. He asked us a little bit before, but there's a part of this as well in this in our presentation tonight about getting in contact with different AT groups. And he says, if we didn't come here with a contract like Jeff did, can we still develop the ability to contact, or how do we do so in a safe with benevolent ETs? Like, so I think basically his question is, how can we develop a connection with benevolent ETs? I know that some people say that they have a contract before they come here to have that kind of experience. But if people want to have that experience, do you have
Yeah.
any?
It's not my personal forte nor understanding. Is helping other people connect to ETs. What I can tell you, I notice, at least observe, is that they are very open, actually. But everything happens with a purpose, and they're very aware of the individual. And I would actually say that everybody I know who talks publicly or supports this phenomenon in some way, having a YouTube channel, having their own podcast, um, can you actually, it's like somehow kind of weird. It's as if they know the person speaking and they end up kind of interacting with the person. There's several podcasters out there. Crystal, I don't know if you're one of them actually, but
Mhm.
where they end up interacting with the phenomenon. And then the more public they are helping, supporting, or doing podcasts, whatever, the more the phenomenon begins to interact with them even more. So, but it's specific to individuals. It's never this grand blanket thing. They're very aware. They're very aware of me even when I'm interacting with the elder. She does certain things and doesn't do certain things, and everything's specific to myself. And so I don't really have like good advice. I do believe CE5 is real, and I do
Mhm.
believe the basics of what CE5 is all about. Just simple, loving, and want to meet, and out of love, out of interest and curiosity and love, and I've more than once have I heard people say, "I want to believe. Show me that you're real," and something literally flies to the sky, like as if
Oh.
in response to something like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
And they're not interested in being filmed, and they're not interested in any of the the ego
Hollywood.
stuff. They're very aware of ego, like human ego desires too. And I think that, yeah, I think those kind of things have to be out of the picture, and kind of a purity of intention and purity of love. I think definitely can draw them, but I also, they're very specific about what they're trying to accomplish. So it's not an easy thing.
Mhm.
And, but I do definitely witness when people are interested in supporting the phenomenon, somehow they end up interacting with it. And that seems to be very
Okay.
conscious or very typical. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I have another question here from another one of our members, and he's also contacted us on Skype. And so he wants to ask a question. So we'll try to connect with him. And I think that, again, if anybody wants to call on and give us their information on Skype, they can ask a question. So is this Ross?
Yes,
Hi,
it's me.
Ross. How you doing?
Hi, hi, Krista. How you doing?
I'm fine,
Hi,
you?
Jeff.
Hi, Ross. Pleased to meet you. Yeah.
Yeah, great to hear it. Dealing with being modest with the very interesting energies. It's even myself, and I don't consider myself amateur. Still, it's having, playing tricks on me, trying to dealing with it with very interesting reality. So yes, I'm okay. Just going through some stuff.
Yeah. And so what was your question for Jeff? Did you have a particular question for Jeff, Ross?
Yeah, yes, I do. So, Jeff, I guess so. My question is, everybody today, everybody is losing their mind. They are freaking out and very disturbed, and they don't know what to do with themselves. We know what everybody needs to do, and basically going within and really doing inner work, connecting with one's heart, and among other things. So, I mean, would you share anything that it's relevant, that that you have been that you've been given the information that can be used for this specific times, not any other times, but this specific time in our human evolution that we are going through?
That's an excellent question. But I think just to sort of clarify, I think that for example, you will find a lot of videos on YouTube about people, different alien races giving messages about where humanity is at this time. And I think that maybe what we're looking to see is that maybe, do you have connections with the groups that you're working with that have a particular message for humanity at this time? Because we're sort of going through, like Ross is saying, we're going through a lot of times of tribulation, and I think people are looking for a positive message from upon high. Do you think you have anything, or if you had to interpret any kind of message from the beings that you're working with?
Yeah.
It's a loaded question,
Yeah.
but
No, it's, well, I think the reality is that we are in challenging times. And, I could speak to that. I don't know that it's helpful, because I think that, we put ourselves here. And so what good does it do to talk about, anything else at this time? I think the reality is that people have to find their power. And I think that's the reality. And I think that we have to find our strength and our power. And our power isn't in our governments. It's not in our groups. It's not in our friends. It's not in our tribes. We hold our own power individually. And so many people believe our power is in our tribes, our friends, our groups, and it's not. And that's the illusion. And we struggle when we believe our power is within other people. And so, yeah, because it could be challenging times. And if I said anything positive about what I think they're saying, I'd actually be lying. So I can't speak. I'm aware of some things, and I think that I'm aware that people are wanting positivity, and I agree with that desire. But the aliens that I'm aware of are, uh, you know, hard times were they've been talking about hard times coming for decades, and yeah, we might just be coming upon it as the cusp of it right now. But yeah, and the bottom line is that once that passes, yeah, that there's a transition that's going to happen here, and so yeah, and of course that transition is it is utopia. It's when you see what their tech can do, this is utopia. So there is such a thing as utopia here, and it's the reality is that you got quantum tech. It's undeniable. Their tech is quantum tech of spirit tech, basically. I just saw another interview with some other whistleblower guy, and he's it was Eric Davis, and Eric Davis is saying we took it apart, couldn't find propulsion, couldn't find any mechanism that controlled it. So you're talking about a UFO that they can't figure out what the hell powers it. And I'm like, oh yeah, consciousness, guys. I don't know when you'll figure it out. They're saying consciousness, but they still haven't figured it out. They're still pretending like there's some little mechanism that says consciousness right there in some words or something. I don't know what the hell they're looking for, but it's consciousness driven is what it is. And some of them get it because we have this new barber guy, and that's the whole point. Is the thing is consciousness driven because it's actually a manifestation. They're calling it manifestations. It's God, man. This stuff is real. This is quantum tech, God consciousness stuff, and all the consciousness stuff is real. So it means all the utopia stuff is real. It's all real. And there is a transition that gets us there, and that transition could be hard. And the only way through it is to find your power, and that's it. You have to find your power. You have to find your vision, to find your source, and our tribes and our groups could steer us away from that source. So you have to find it within, and you have to find it independently sometimes from those groups and those tribes, and sometimes just unplugging from social media is the answer to these things. Because yeah, we are source stressed watching what's happening in Russia, right? Like it's like thousands and thousands of kilometers away. Like stop focusing on something that's so far away. And same, sometimes you need to separate from yourself from those things by realizing that when you just take it all apart from your world, the world you walk down the street in isn't affected by this stuff. The park isn't affected by this right now. And you can just still live out a very peaceful life, not focusing on those things and finding your power. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, you absolutely right. Right. Everything lies within, and everything lies within. That's the ultimate answer. Now you have said something. You are aware of things. What things are you alluding to that you're aware of?
Could this be towards the rising? Because I know that you're saying, okay, we have to focus on ourselves, but some of that message or some of the positive messages that the rising is on its way. And that some of the things that I think maybe you're aware of is that there are certain things that will be taking place that comes along with the rising. I'm wondering if maybe that's some of the things that you're aware of, or
so all the gray alien contactees that I know, we all know it's hardship first. And we're all embedded with it. We're all programmed with it. And a lot of it's just coming to pass now. It's just coming up. And this isn't a smooth transition. I don't know what other information's out there. I can't speak for it. But I mean, the information, I don't know. Is it really is this the right place to talk about it? I can talk about it privately with you. You can call me about it, and I can definitely share anything. I don't want to be freaking people out here, and that's just not the purpose of this presentation.
Believe me, Jeff, you're not going to freak me out. Oh, it's going to take a lot. I don't know if there's anything that will freak me out.
But I mean, I think it's also people, because I think that some people some people are a little bit more sensitive than others. And if I may, Jeff, just sort of jump in here, I think that look, I'm not a contactee such as yourself. I don't have that experience. I can only go with what I've been hearing because I've been trying my best to sort of keep on top of what some of the stuff that people are talking about and what's out there. And of course, there's going to be the storm before the calm. I think that that is definitely something. Now,
Yeah.
like you said, people can speak from different perspectives, and people have different points that they're coming from. But a lot of the different messages that I've heard is that there's definitely going to be a certain amount of storm before the calm. Now, does this mean that it's going to be a Hollywood style type of disaster movie where people are going to be slashed and burned and all that? Look, it remains to be seen. I mean, are there going to be certain earth changes? For sure? I think there's definitely going to be some earth changes. I think there's definitely going to be some earth changes that might affect people. There's definitely going to be a lot of flooding and rising of water levels. But I don't think it's going to turn into this Hollywood disaster film. I think that people just need to sort of be aware, and similar to what Jeff is saying, own your power and raise your vibration, and that goes a long way in
Yeah. What actually would make me happy is I'm more than happy to talk about it. I just, yeah, I don't want to, like, it can change the vibe of what we're
yeah,
doing
I
right now.
understand. I understand.
So
Yeah.
I'd actually be happy to, to finish off maybe the Q&A, and I can hang
Okay. Sure.
out. And then those who
Sure.
want to hear
Yeah.
what
Sure.
Ross is wanting to know about, I'd be
Absolutely.
happy to, then at that point,
Absolutely.
it's all by choice when people are here,
Yeah.
and they can
Exactly.
hear it if they want to. And I can tell anybody anything because, I have it. What I have is government cooperation for it too. So I feel pretty confident that what I know is around the corner. But we're talking about visioning and stuff, and some
Okay.
of these things can affect people as well too in a negative way. And I don't want to do that
I
especially when
understand.
we're present
No,
visioning.
so let's sort of go back to that. So I'm going to say thank you, Ross, for your call. And
Thank
stick
you.
around later on, Ross.
Yeah, we
We'll
can keep
try to get
talking
you
about it.
back
I'd be
again.
happy to. I'd be
Yeah,
happy
we'll
to.
get
Yeah.
you back again, but we'll stick with what we're talking about tonight, and then we'll talk a bit with you later. Okay, Ross?
Sounds good.
Okay,
Awesome.
great. Talk to
Yeah.
you later.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bye.
Appreciate.
No problem.
Thanks.
Okay, so one sort of getting back to what you're saying about the visioning. Um, is this something that, for example, I hear a lot of people talking about teaching their children visioning. You know,
Hmm.
is that sort of something that you would consider? Because I think that's kind of interesting, teaching, because instead of, you know, taking over children's brains and saying, okay, you have to sort of do this, you have to do that. Parenting has changed a great deal. And I know you and I have had this conversation before because you and I are both Gen X. And I mean, Generation X growing up was just like a disaster, And I mean, yeah, a lot of us were really sort of completely, poo-pooed on as children. And we had a very, very difficult time growing up because a lot of us were coming in you know, as indigo children and all that kind of stuff. And we had to sort of try and deal with some of the stuff that we were coming online with all this stuff, and
Right.
yet with a very, very concrete Victorian type of patriarchal society. But now I see a lot of parents are really changing their tune on how they want to teach their children. Would
Hmm.
you say that visioning is a part of is that next? Could you possibly see that maybe being the next step in how we, for example, teach children? Because the children
I think it'd be
are
great. Yeah.
you know what I mean?
It's part of our power. Yeah. I totally think that if like me, right? Having 20 years of experience of it, really, really helps. And that's because I was applying it at the age of 20 and having results and learning about it from that point onwards and feeling like I was linked to the universe. So a child who has it would it would just be amazing. I can't see anything wrong with that information and applied and practiced. Yeah, I think a child would be a powerful individual growing up if they knew that they had the ability to work with the universe. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
That's great. And I have a comment here from Carol Williams. She
Carol,
says,
yeah,
I like the earlier slide that revert to creating what you desire rather than trying to attract it.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
want to comment
it's not
on
the
that?
power of, yeah, that's great. Because we live in this world of power of attraction, but power of attraction is hmm, remember I said that the unity perspective is, uh, it's Advaita Vedanta, non-duality is the height of what all this is. And that's a unity perspective. Now, it is a brain breaker. It is the same concept as I said of limitations is of resources is a state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's the idea that there's this unlimited thing going on. So power of attraction is a limitation. It's saying something's out there and I'm going to try to bring it over here. Well, you're in unity, there's nothing to attract. So yeah, it's actually not a power of attraction. It's creation. You're actually materializing and you're bringing it into a fold of a, I guess a computer program, if you will, like as they are saying, a bunch of programmed codes are sitting in the background, and and it's working with the new system, this new creation. And when you think of it as a power of attraction, it's a limitation, and it doesn't actually hit at the actual core of the reality of what this is, which is the height of non-duality, which is you're all things. So yeah, if you're all things, then you're creating your desire out as a manifestation of the universe versus attracting something that you think is physically already somewhere else and you're trying to wheel it in as if you're fishing. Yeah.
Okay. So that whole thing of the last, I think, 10, 20 years where people had that, the power of attraction, that book that came out and
The
people were all
Secret. Yeah.
secret or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And about how that was a power of attraction. So if we had to sort of rewrite that whole thing, it'd be sort of the instead of the secret, the knowing.
The open secret. Yeah. The open knowing.
Open
Yeah.
secret.
Yeah. The open secret. Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be something else because I think it's more from that perspective. And I have an interesting comment here from Ingrid Navarre. She says here, Alex Collier today said that we are the disclosure and that we are awakening to our own power, which I think you would definitely, and I think that if I had to say that was the theme of tonight's chat,
Yeah, that's the premise here. Yeah, it's the elder, the alien that I'm in touch with told me it's the great unveiling. And what I mean by that is it's your unveiling. So you don't know what you are yet. You think that you're Crystal. I walk around saying I'm Jeff. We're not that. We're this thing that's been living out for thousands of years through a birth and death life cycle, and you're not even that. You're in fact the energy that's been offering yourself to the 3D realm, and your higher self energy is what you are. And we don't know how to apply that, how to take that, how to use that, how to work with that. We struggle with it. That's the whole religions thing for thousands of years. So yeah, we are gaining our power back, and it is a great unveiling of ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's going to take us in a different direction because we have been wrestling with all this religion, and again, this is not to say that there's anything. We're not shooting down religion.
Yeah, I don't shoot down religion either.
Yeah. And so we're trying to say that whatever your practice is or whatever your beliefs are, that is what it is. And we were talking about the sort of bigger picture of how unfortunately Christianity, and some other religions as well, but Christianity for its own part has really held us back in many different ways. But the reason why it's held us back, and if you look to the Bible, especially with the Tower of Babel, it says, look at them, they become smarter. And if we don't knock them down, they'll become like us. So there's some sort of level of wanting to keep the humanity down.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Again,
yes and no. I mean, again, it's all about interpretation. But I mean, I'm just saying,
right.
Sometimes on this show we talk about the archons, a group of beings that have come and have tried to keep humanity down. So there are certain things that we've been toyed with, and I mean, I know everybody can have their own, I guess their own opinion on that. I'm not here to justify one or the other, but as human beings, we've definitely been kept down. And I think that a big part of what's happening now is the ability is us to say, well, wait a minute, we actually are powerful beings, and to move forward with that. But I think that what I really like about what you were saying before, and that's actually a question I wanted to ask. At one point in your discussion, you were talking about how the aliens see time differently.
Right.
And I know that I've discussed on this show the idea of, for example, when ships are flying, like spaceships are flying, they have a tendency to sort of go out of time and sort of pop back in again.
Right.
How I know this is a little off the cuff, but how are aliens or the grays that you work with, how are they seeing time? Like what is their concept of time? Are they in and out of it? You know?
So the alien that I interact with repeatedly tells me she's from the future.
Okay.
So, and I think that there's different things you can do when you're from one time zone and you decide to come into a different time zone. And I think that that ability alters I think just making that jump from field to field all of a sudden opens up a whole bunch of wacky abilities.
Okay.
And time playing or time morphing is one of them. And yeah, there appears to be some state outside of time that they can access that I think has something to do with the mantis. So there's some kind of grander outside time perspective. But the Gray, the Elder herself, has repeatedly told me, and Craft, like Craft's flying by my house and we're telepathically communicating, and she's communicating, I'm from the future. And she did this like just a couple weeks ago. Again, like I'm from the future. And that answers how they interacted with me because I have a timeline. And the timeline is actually of my future. So for them, that was already an event that occurred. And then they're coming back and they're interjecting and they're working with an event that had already occurred. So that's a very different perspective than the one that, with which I take. And also it answers some weird things like, you know, why UFOs weren't part of the 1400s, you know, or the 1200s or the 1000 BC. How come there's not whole pictures, you know, of just tons and tons of flying crafts, right? And it's
Well, no, sorry, because like we have a lot of ancient wall paintings of aliens, no?
well, we don't know what some of those things are. And yeah, we do actually, yeah, and I agree with you that some of those things could definitely be them. But if they were flying around with the consistency that they have today, I
Yeah,
think we'd
no,
have
no,
a
not
very
the no, no.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking
Okay,
about
sorry.
their visibility is something is going on right now presently. And the gap of visibility can start making sense because they're actually interjecting at spots that they choose to. And then they just leave us alone for huge gaps. And of
Oh,
course, yes, I definitely agree that they
yeah.
popped in and out of time and they're interjecting with humanity at certain
Yeah,
times.
sorry, I didn't mean to sort of like, jump in there and sort of like
No, no, it's
give
okay. I understand. And someone else would have probably thought the same thing I was thinking too, or you
yeah.
were saying thinking too. So, but that I think the gaps actually start making sense when they can, when they it's looking when they look at it from an outside perspective of time and they're interjecting at certain spots. And so I mean that's basically the only knowledge I have about how they the other information I have is that um that I think that so the human brain is fragmenting our reality. And this I do know because I've seen the afterlife. And the human brain is fragmenting our experience of space and time. And time, I think, is actually a lot. I think when you are the higher self is a removed from your body, your time is actually a different speed, and it actually might be going at a different rate. And then when you're manifested in the body, you're looking at a metered second. Dot 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 dot. But I think your own higher self is actually bigger, which is why you can have premonitions about what's happening that day, or you can feel something that's coming around the corner. It's because your higher self is actually experiencing it in a grander state. And I think the aliens are living in that space as well too. And then they have to work with that. Who the human who's looking at everything very metered and fragmented out and then they're aliens. That's why I think they use the bodies with us so much is because the bodies help them get on our stream of time, maybe something like that. So I
Okay.
think that they have a grander experience of time than we do. And though we can have that same grand experience of time, our human tendency, the brain and everything, is fragmenting it all out. So we experience it in the way that we do. But yeah, those are the things I'm aware of about how they see time. So, but I'm certain this is just going to be a baffling, large scale. If once there's disclosure that time is something that is much more hugely different than we thought it was. And yeah, I think the lack of understanding of time is actually the big reason that one of the big reasons we don't have disclosure is how time actually works in the universe is much different than we think it is.
Okay. That's interesting. That's very great. Well, I want to say thank you again, Jeff, for this amazing presentation, and I apologize profusely for all the technical
No worries. Yeah.
that
No
we had.
worries. No worries. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sorry. about that, but I just
No
want to
worries.
say thank you,
Yeah,
everybody, and to say thank you again, Jeff, for taking the time out of your schedule to come and to
yeah,
discuss this with
my
us. It's
pleasure.
absolutely, and I find that when I consider all the information that's out there
Yeah.
of creating your reality, I find that your approach was one of the most informative
Mm.
and one of the most it sort of just somehow made sense to me somehow, because you always hear about, okay, but you do this, you do that, no, 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 but you actually made a lot of sense, and you took me and I can see by the comments you took also our members in a very different perspective, and it actually makes sense. I think what you're saying tonight made a lot more sense than anything else I've heard or read. So I
Brilliant.
want
Thank you.
to
Yeah.
thank you, because that it really is true. And so now I can sort of like, yes, I can have that glass of wine, but I can.
You have to fulfill the vision. I think
I
that's
know, fulfill
required
the
now.
vision, exactly, exactly. But it's just that the way you put it, it just sort of like it gives me a more step by step approach, but it just makes sense of what's happening with what I'm actually doing.
Brilliant.
And the way you explained it was more sort of like, okay, I get it now. I understand. Okay, this is what's happening and this is what I have to do. So very, very, very good. And if people are interested in getting a copy of your workbook, is that also available on,
On the
because if you want
website.
me that information, and I can put it down on the comments below once we're
Sure.
finished, I can do that. So if you want to just send me that information, and if people, you want to get a copy of the workbook and you want to really take what Jeff has been saying tonight to the next level, I highly, highly recommend that you get the workbook. I know I am, because everything tonight was just absolutely mind blowing, and was such a different and new perspective. So I'm definitely going to be getting that workbook. So if you can just send me that information, Jeff,
Sure.
I will put that in the comments below. And
Okay.
as
No
well,
problem.
oh yeah, and everybody, as always, if you're a member of the Star Season Light Workers Collective on Meetup, please join us here on YouTube as well. Please subscribe and like our videos tonight. It really helps us a lot, and it helps us to bring more content, and helps us to bring you amazing guests like Jeff back to our channel. So really, really looking forward to seeing you guys register. And so I will leave it at that. I know that we're going to stay maybe for another 5 or 10 minutes more. We were going to discuss the
Sure.
other.
Yeah. I'm fine
So
with
I
that.
wanted to
Totally.
say thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. And thank you. And I look forward to seeing you next week at our next presentation. So thank you again, everyone, and
Great.
have a good night. And I'm so sorry for all the tech, but I'm glad that you stayed behind and stayed with us.
Yeah, that's
So,
great. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
thank you.
Yeah,
Great.
awesome.
Yeah, I have actually an interesting comment here from Jet Setter. We'll get back online with Ross, but I have an interesting comment here from Jeff. He says here, Jeff, do you contact the aliens you communicate with whenever you choose, or do they tap in and ring your doorbell?
Hmm.
Also, do you have any special current projects currently going on? That's interesting.
Yeah, I have access to her. And she's available to me. So it's not consistent. I don't and her response isn't always consistent, but I can definitely tap into them, and she's available immediately. So I'm certain this is tech, because I don't know where she is sometimes, and I'm able to talk to her, and she's like right here immediately. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, that was the first question. The second one was projects. I do have more presentations coming up. I don't know if I have a YouTube channel, and I really love doing presentations, putting out new information. And I just put out a video today of a sighting that I had, and so I'll be doing. I have a past life that I had that was written in history that I have a lot of memories of, and it has some historical information that anyway that will be coming out soon. And so those are the type of projects I'm working on. I also have more information about what the rising and what the aliens did with me, and I'm putting out information about that. Some of my perspectives about what the aliens even are has changed over time, and I'll be putting out that information too. It's all on my YouTube channel. If you subscribe to my channel, you should be able to see some of the projects I'm working on and some of the things I'm doing. Other than that, I keep talking and hanging out with people like Crystal, who keep inviting me back, and some other interviews, all stuff I try to put on my YouTube channel, so you can go to my channel there and see what's going on. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. So we definitely want to have people. Again, we're also going to put that link down below in the comments for those who want to check out Jeff's page. He has a lot of good content there, and he's done a lot of presentation with other people as well. So definitely check that out. And so just sort of getting back here, Ross, are you there?
Yeah,
Ross?
I'm here.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
So did we want to go down that rabbit hole? How are we feeling, guys?
Yeah, I can say anything. I prefer not to make the conversation too long.
No,
But
another 5, 10 minutes,
yeah,
and
let's do
then
5 to minutes. And so let's just make it clear. Everybody who's hanging out right now is okay with future knowledge or future what I was told by the future. That's all. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page about this. I don't want to freak people out who didn't want to hear this information. Yada yada yada.
Mhm,
We're
absolutely.
good. We're good. Okay.
We're good.
So the aliens told me, so they showed me. Um, and this is, I didn't know this information was out there. It was actually out there on John Mack's books as well too. And John Mack's, so he wrote them in the 90s, right? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, so uh, and I know there's opposing information, but I have government cooperation for mine too. So the I'm pretty certain. So the aliens are concerned for the planet, and I'm pretty certain the planet is a birth and death life cycle stage. So it's not a garden per se, but it's actually a managed system that includes the birth and death life cycle. The benevolent woo is real. God is real. All the divine, all the positive, all that's real. It's actually that's the whole part of this all is that it is real, and there's kind of a sciencey perspective behind it too, where they are, they do maybe want genetics to be a certain way, and they made the human body a certain way, and the mantis was a part of this, the mantis species, and so the planet itself is a treasured garden, if you will, and I think that's the whole point with them approaching the aliens approaching, the government in the 50s. Apparently, something this they was actually shared to me some of this information. We told them the plan a long time ago, and the plan appears to have been to alter the genetics of the species of humans. And I think this is what we're at the era now where there's so many experiencers and so many who feel connected to the phenomenon. I'm like, this is obviously evidently real. This is totally real. There's so many people feel connected to the phenomenon, and then they end up interacting with it, and that's just all evidence for me that this was all planned. This whole time that we're in right now, and that it also gives validity for the other half of what I know. So yeah, there's going to be some kind of planet event. And what I was shown was that they need to adjust. Okay, actually, what it is, and it's crazy. It's just totally insane. And I actually understand why there's no disclosure. The gray aliens are from an alternate Earth that's going to basically be merged with our Earth. And the mantis is the one who's in charge of all this. They're called the controller species, so they can control this stuff. And it does, so that's a whole bunch of wackiness, but what it is that field, the dimensional field that they're from is going to merge with ours, but I think it causes like a planet shakeup on a massive global scale. And so something along the lines of the electromagnetic field shifting, and upon that some type of geo planetary earthquake that causes the oceans to buckle and then cause massive tidal waves. And so what I saw was massive waves wiping things out. Not just that, going in thousands of kilometers inland. So it's huge destruction, is what it is. And Linda Moulton Howe actually. So I saw her on her YouTube channel, and then emailed her. I had this information, and I was talking with her anyway from Ian Halling, who I was working with. And so she already had previous information that a scientist from S4 was actually tasked by the government how to save humanity from giant waves. And it appears I'm not the only contactee who's been told massive waves, massive earthquake destruction that causes huge global waves that basically wipe cities out and wipe territories out. And the aliens told me we are destroying things, and then we're remaking things. And we're making it better for people like you, for people who are kind, spiritual, and peaceful. And so they're determined to make the place better for people who are kind, spiritual, and peaceful. And it's kind of really interesting because if you think about it, look out the window might be the actual problem. There's not a lot of kind, spiritual, and peaceful.
Mhm.
And though yes, there's groups of us, right? There's us, but we're an echo chamber, right?
Mhm.
This isn't huge billions of people on the planet who are, living out a certain way. And I think that it's also combined with the sensitivity of the earth as a bioorganism that is threatened by, some of the damage that's going on. And that doesn't just mean one thing. I think it means all the various damage that's occurring right now. And it might be all combined with maybe they knew something like this would happen. I'm not really clear, but they knew that they'd have to intervene at some point, and that's what's happening right now. And so that there was some type of massive earth cataclysm is the premise of it. And that cataclysm was some type of shifting of the poles that brought their frequency on their planet over to our planet. So their frequency is available here. Now, the other twist of this is that it's actually not as utopian as we think it is. So their tech is utopian. The world that I believe when they interact with us, with the hybrids, it will be utopia. But the environment will be possibly an electromagnetic thing that does something weird to the psyche, the consciousness of humans. Meaning those who don't know their source might go haywire. And imagine a paranormal frequency that just got amplified. And so the thinner dimensions are thicker now, and the thicker dimensions are thinner now. Something like that. And then there might be cryptoids that were naturally always here that hated humans. So there might be weird problems all of a sudden that we didn't expect, like ghosts that can take over a territory, ghosts that say, get the hell out of here, humans, because you kicked us out. Now we're kicking you out, that kind of stuff. And though people who actually were always spiritual, who could connect with source, might be the most powerful. So a flip is going to occur where surprisingly highly spiritual people could somehow, be leaders of the society. And people who were, live in their world, doing their own thing, and didn't give spirit a thought might struggle in this new world. Never mind the fact that there's a planet event. Never mind that there's now the presence of the aliens. And when I say the presence, I'm pretty certain it's the hybrids who are merging societies. And so, yeah, it's a planet event. And between now and then, I think what they do is tied to how humans respond. And I think that humans are supposed to be giving out this information more and making this merging happening sooner or smoother. And it's almost predictable. Humans didn't do that.
Mhm.
And the reason we didn't do that is because, technically it's batshit crazy this stuff is, right? Other dimensions.
Well, they don't want to cause a panic too, right? Don't forget that they don't want to cause like a panic.
Yeah, okay, never mind how there's layers of things right here. Exactly. Never mind the public. I'm not convinced that anybody holding this information sat with it either. I don't think
Mhm.
anybody who some government said, "Oh, of course, aliens from other dimensions, let's manipulate this and figure out how to control this." I don't think that's what they did because when you look at what this is too much for any human. A human can't understand this. And we have some whistleblowers. The longer I'm in this field and I'm able to talk with some people who are in the know and I get my little ins and stuff, I learned what I always knew, that apparently they did try to get scientists in, decades into this. And the scientists are like, no, that's not reality. How dare you tell me that that's reality? And the scientists can't work on it with them because the scientists are saying, how dare you say that astral planes are real? And that's like they're pissing and they can't even handle the information. Humans can't handle the information, is what it is. And that's what
You can't handle the truth.
you can't handle the truth.
Handle the truth.
There actually
Exactly.
might be a premise to this where dimensions and
Yeah.
aliens and afterlife and all that stuff is real. God is
Yeah.
real. Birth and death life cycle is real, but aliens are a part of it, all real, is so screwed up for the human brain that I think that even at points when they had the information and they tried to involve departments, you'd get just pushback, right? And I think that, and so what gets created is this vacuum where, yeah, maybe there's some kind of black ops tech thing going on where they were manipulating crafts for technology. I don't doubt that stuff because that vacuum is there because humans didn't know how to handle the information. And then the
Ross?
aliens actually want the information out to make that process smoother, which is what I think over the decades, what ET was from Spielberg and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and all what we assume now as contactees and experiencers, that all this was warm up, but it got stunted. That they actually were trying to change humanity to get accepted into this stuff. But over time, certain people say, no, 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 let's not do that. And humans are humans, and so we're in this shady scenario where they are coming and might not be prepared, and there might
Yeah.
be a global panic thing that could occur from
I
it.
don't think we'll ever be prepared, though. To be honest, I don't think. Regardless
It's
of
true
what,
too. I agree. It's
honest,
challenging.
be
I think
honest.
this whole thing is nuts and it's
Yeah.
challenging. Yeah.
Ross, did you have a comment that you wanted to?
So energetic transformation is going to happen. It will. It's
Yeah.
happening. It's going to happen. You cannot stop it. I cannot stop it. We
Yeah.
cannot stop it. And tough luck.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say, for those who do not know themselves,
Yeah.
will be seriously challenged.
Yeah.
And it's tough shit. I'm sorry. I mean, you can disagree with me and you can have a compassion for that, but
Yeah.
hey,
No, I agree. I totally agree. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's it. And we have to, we'll be in it. Those who did the effort, those who did the thing with which looked like nasal gaving, nasal gaving. Yeah, that's right. It's a word. Yeah. And those who spent 20 years in a cave, right, all of a sudden will have an ability to work with this. And that's the key. And those who didn't, who thought it was all nuts and bolts, or even those who laughed it off, or it's going to be surprising. And I'm certain it's a reversal of the people who actually have spirituality will have powers in this new dimension and this new reality, and they'll be able to utilize it in a way that other people won't. And I totally agree. It's a dimensional spiritual change that the humans will go through, and that's what all of this is about. And that's what the end result is. How we get there is possibly not is buckle up is basically what it is.
Yeah. But I've heard recently a lot of people have been talking about this. They're talking about, there's going to be a big flash, and then 3 days of darkness, and then there's going to be a shift, and blah blah. What have you heard anything about that? Like this 3 days of darkness, and then there's going to be like a big, large solar flare or pulse that's going to sort of burn things up, and then I don't know. There's so many different takes on that. But
all I know is that, from my information, that includes other contactees, that includes this government information, their planet is coming here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on a different astral plane. And according to the government, all they knew was that a burp in the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And between us contactees, well, we knew that astral planes there's fields of planes stacked on top of one another. That's the nature of the universe. Mm-hmm. Fields of dimensions stacked on top of one another. So other dimensions exist right here, and we don't interact with them. We don't know that, and they're astral planes. And so the gray aliens are from an alternate Earth, is what it is, an alternate version of Earth. Or like it's not Earth for them, it's another whole other planet, but it's with us. It's like an entanglement, if you will. And the leader, the mantis species, is the one who's responsible for it. Because they're like kind of gurus of the galaxy. They're like managers of this stuff, and so they're changing that field. And that's what this whole thing is. That's a merging of that society with our society, and it's crashing societies, crashing planets, as if you will, dimensional fields that are colliding. And so the idea that was some kind of like project something from the galaxy is like doing it. Now, I don't know anything about the solar flare stuff. I know there's a couple contactees out there who talk pretty heavily about solar flares. I can't speak about it. I don't know anything about the solar flares, and I really don't know anything about what this looks like either. I don't know the whens or it'll be like this. It'll be 7 days of that, and I don't know anything about that stuff. Mm-hmm. All I know is that the damage will be so intense that I know from my side, it's a Noah's Ark scenario where they're taking.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
well, that's one thing I have heard. Yeah. That's one thing that I've heard is that
my whole thing is Noah's Ark, that they're taking people out. Yeah, and that we'll all be in outer space while all the stuff is happening, all the damage.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, my whole thing is Noah's Ark. The entire thing, and I've been repeated and repeated.
Noah's Ark or Noah's ship, spaceship
Sure. Yeah. Well, of course. Yeah. Noah's Mantis spaceship,
Noah's
actually.
Mantis ship.
Yeah. And
But
like
you know
all
what?
of us are in the spaceships and we're
Yeah,
watching it all down below. Yeah. And
yeah.
then it's all done. And then they put us back is
But
what
it's
it is.
back,
Yeah.
exactly. No,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I've heard as well. And I know that I mentioned this once when you and I were talking, is that my mother, before she passed away, my mother used to be quite psychic,
Hmm.
and she used to have a lot of prophetic dreams. And she's had a dream where she saw, shit hit the fan, and
Hmm.
everybody was running around screaming and yelling, and nobody knew what was going on, and that ships were landing, and that humanoid beings were coming out and telling people come into the ships
Hmm.
because you have to come into the ships because that's how we're going to help you to get out of this.
Wow.
And it's not the first time I've heard this. So my mother had that dream, but I've also been hearing from other people talking about how they're going to protect as many people as they can
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
the cray cray that's going on,
Yeah.
and put them back. But it's also for us to sort of build up on that. But would you say there are any safe havens on the planet, just in case? I don't know.
So what I saw
Mhm.
was now I see I don't like playing this game. I don't know,
Yeah.
like they showed it to me, and then sometimes what they're doing is symbolic and sometimes it's actually 100% accurate. What
Mhm.
I saw was a was the pole, the poles, and it buckles and it like tilts basically. And when it tilts, it causes something in the North Sea. And so the North Sea is the thing that actually crashes basically destroys Russia, and then
Oh,
that would obviously create a huge tidal wave throughout the Pacific. And I think it's stuff like that where it's this after effect stuff.
oh.
And if you're what they showed me was a massive tidal wave crashing through Russia, going up to the Himalayas. And so that's thousands of kilometers inland. So that's a huge amount of water. That's obviously a massive tsunami, a massive amount of
Mhm.
earthquake damage. And tied to it, like everything, all the synchronicities throughout contact events just kind of added more picture
Mhm.
to this, that it was actually coming from the North Seas. And in that contact event, we were actually, it was a test. I didn't know it was a test. I was on craft and I was actually helping save people, and we were doing it in Northern Europe. So it all kind of matched a picture that this was happening in the northern sea would buckle, and we were in Northern Europe, and they were picking up people. We were scanning consciousness of people and who to pick up and who couldn't
Well, the
come.
pedophiles don't have a chance, basically, is what you're saying. Like that. you know?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but it
No.
was measure it was
Oh,
yeah, it was analyzing consciousness, and it was a really wild thing, and I thought it was happening in the moment, and I was anxious about it, and then they were testing us is what it was. Can we handle it?
okay.
And so but the whole premise of the story kind of kept up through a contact event. That was my 18th. Well, it would be my 24th that I would see the planet, and they would go back into the same explanation. Something like a tilt would happen, and it was happening in the northern sea. So something about, yeah, this information ended up matching some science about the poles I didn't know about. So
And so you said there's waves going into the Pacific Rim,
the
or
Pacific, well, it would be the North Sea. It's Let's look at where the pole is right now,
okay.
and you just project it moving even further down, further into Russia, because it's right now the pole is moving, and it's moving into Russia. So you just imagine that's like, I didn't know this information. I was just getting the memories out, and I'm like looking at all this, and then learn it all matches science. So
Mhm.
it's actually that pole that's the right now the pole is moving towards Russia. Just imagine it moving maybe 100 kilometers or 200 kilometers as a quick adjustment, and it must crack something in the ocean, and then all that just buckles out, and then yeah, that would just cause an aftershock that goes through the Pacific, but it would definitely, it'd be massive destruction to the Russia and the whole area of the North and everything to do with the North Sea. So yeah, it's just massive destruction is what it is.
I had a question here from
So,
someone. Sorry, go ahead, Ross.
yeah, so Jeff, all right. So let's say, let's imagine a celestial body dematerialize itself from another dimension here in the solar system.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need nothing else. By just that, it's going to cause such a gravitational mess up with not just with Earth, but with our sun. So
yeah, maybe, yeah.
It's automatic. Okay, you don't have to go any further than that,
Yeah.
because the sun is gonna freak out. It's just by that.
Yeah.
And the gravitational pull and tug on all the planets, including Earth. It's gonna be. I mean, you won't be able to hide. Period.
Yeah, you won't be able to hide. Yeah. Yeah. Imagine a scenario where the government calls it a burp from the galaxy. A burp from the center of the galaxy. And it's actually a dimensional field that the mantis is able to shift or change or collide or something. Yeah. And then maybe and that's what had me thinking that all these other contactees are talking solar flares. And I don't know anything about solar flares. I was never told that, but that could make sense if there was a galactic something that was occurring that shifts everything. Yeah. And the planet is a part of that. And the sun might be just part of that too. Yeah. It could be.
Well, I mean, the science kind of makes sense though. But the science makes sense in a way that if the electron, because what happens, for example, if you have a big fat EMP coming off the sun, it's a lot of electromagnetic energy that's coming towards a planet. I could see that really messing up the poles, which is also electromagnetic, and then changing them altogether, and then causing all that destruction. So it's all about electromagnetic. So the science behind it definitely, works out. But on another note, I have another question here. Somebody's saying, when do we expect this thing to happen? When we have to buckle up? And from what I'm hearing that something's happening this year. Nobody seems to have, but it seems between 2025, maybe 2026. But it seems to be that there's a big, fat ass shift coming on the way down the pike.
So yeah, I was never given any dates.
No? Okay.
And I've always believed in these whistleblowers. And the reason is because they're saying everything that matches for me. And I always knew that the planet was at stake here, that this was in some ways we actually look like we're a dying civilization. So we're dying off, even though we don't feel like it because everything looks like it's going grand relatively. But that actually what's coming around the corner is a struggle, and that they're bringing in another civilization that could benefit from both. So it's a merging. Hey, these both two could work together. And so it's a merging of civilizations that can benefit both parties. And even though we might be unconscious about that or lack the understanding of it, the entities on the galactic level are like, no, this will benefit all parties. And planet being the big part of this, I always lend towards what John Ramirez said, which was 2027, that in fact, and it makes sense that they would do this, that it was actually a 10-year program of soft disclosure from 2017, which was when the first Pentagon videos came out and the New York Times article finally acknowledged UFOs, all the way to 2027. And then everything they're doing now between, Barber, this Jake Barber guy being the last one, it's all making sense. They're trying to actually get some of the reality of what this is out, which is it was consciousness driven. And they're doing it with slow drip because, I see people fighting already with the Jake Barber thing. They're freaking out. They're pissed off that it actually has a woo to it. They hate it. They expect this to be evil aliens, and it's turning out not to be evil aliens. How dare they tell us it's not evil aliens, right?
No, that's BS. That's BS Hollywood. But there's actually, speaking of Hollywood, there's actually a show that I'm watching these days, and it's on Prime, and it's called Paradise. And it's a TV show. People should check this out if you guys are people still around. But it's a TV show where we think that it's about, just a usual government, a U.S. government type of, a political show. But it turns out that this is, at one point, they say there's going to be a human extinction level event that's going to take place on the planet.
Yeah.
And we think, okay, and so we're sort of sitting in the first or second episode, and by the second episode, I don't want to give it too much away. Spoiler alert! But the character looks up, and the camera goes all the way up, and then we find out that the character is living in an underground city. and that the sun that he's seeing is a fake sun, as being everything's being manufactured. It is a fake American town that was created underneath a mountain,
Huh.
kind of like Cheyenne Mountain,
like Truman Show almost.
Almost like a Truman Show.
Yeah, yeah.
Truman Show because of an extinction level event.
Right.
And so they are having to exist underground.
Right.
And it's interesting because this whole idea of Earth having gone through destruction before is nothing new. And we always hear these myths about people living in underground cities. And I'm wondering if that's sort of what that is. If wondering the whole idea of, Hyperborea being one of those cultures that went underground because they were destroyed at some point, that kind of thing. So it's kind of interesting that this TV show called Paradise,
interesting,
which is, I think it's on Disney Plus. Sorry, it's on Disney Plus.
Right,
and
Marvel, yeah.
Basically take that whole concept.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a soft disclosure. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I don't doubt these things anymore. That even some concepts in Marvel. Someone actually asked, had a Reddit post about it, and they were like, "What movies do you think were soft disclosure?" And I'm like, "Oh well, some of the Marvel concepts were bang on, like Kang. Like Kang is 100% the Mantis, like the outside time, working with timelines. I'm pretty certain that's what that is. And same with the High Evolutionary from Guardians of the Galaxy 3, who creates genetic engineering and has experimentation with animals and with entities and creates things. And yeah, I think these are all kind of things that put these ideas into our head. But
that was so sad. Oh, I hate the idea of experimentation on animals. I just don't like that kind of stuff.
So, but the 2020, that's my whole thing, is that I think that's what this is. The 2027 is at least getting that information out. I don't know what's going to happen when, but I do know that the aliens have always wanted this to be a smooth process. I think this is what the whole Eisenhower thing was this is the plan, and here's how you get to the end, and let's do this together. And they're saying, okay. And then they're kind of saying behind their backs, not okay anymore over the decades. And there turns out to be, I have an essay on this, that it looks like there's evidence actually that there were kind of two parties within the government. One that wanted to do this, wanted to give information out. That's part of what the ET was, and the Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And also there was in the 70s, two directors were going to, on behalf of the Pentagon, tell the world that aliens were real.
About that. And then they decided to shut that down, eh?
Yeah, the Pentagon was the one who shut it down. So they were going to do this, meaning there was an inside movement to get this information out. So that was a way to help make this merging make sense and make it easy. And I think a planetary event was a part of it. And I think some, dumbasses inside the government are like, oh, well, if there's a planetary event, maybe a whole bunch of people we don't need can get wiped out, and that can help us. And I think something crazy maniacal was a part of that, and and then they stopped it. And what there's the guy who Kepler Space Telescope, the CEO of the guy who manages the software for it, made a Morningstar Pass, the book called Morningstar Pass, and he was an author working on space programs. And he said, yeah, there was an agreement with gray aliens that had fallen apart. And so that's what I see, is a whole, we're going to work together. And then there's a fight in the government saying, no, we're not going to work with these guys. And that happened in the sometimes 80s or 90s or something.
Yeah.
And that creates the dilemma we're in now. And it's a dilemma. Yeah. So there is a planet event and they have to catch up. And if you don't, like when we come out, like we're not on the government side. That's it. Yeah, that's
exactly. We're on our own time clock. And I mean, there's two things. One, there was there's a long lost video on YouTube, and it was a Disney type of production where they were going to do this sort of like thing about UFOs, and it's crazy. You can look it up on.
I believe it. I believe it.
And Disney was supposed to put this thing. They put a show together, and they had people talking, and it was supposed to be this whole forum. And it's interesting the way they do it. It's definitely from the 80s. And some people were saying that this whole thing was produced in order to have the so-called soft disclosure. And it didn't really sort of go any further.
Yeah.
But then to top it off, a lot of people were saying, look, the aliens have said, look, we've given you enough time. And you're screwing that up. Screw you. We're gonna come. We're on a clock.
Yeah, they're on their own clock. Yeah, that's
We're
right.
on the
Yeah.
clock.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to be there, we're coming down.
Yeah.
Oh, but you can't come down because people are not ready. Screw that.
Yeah.
We gave you time. You didn't do it.
Yeah.
And now we're coming down. I don't care what you want.
Yeah.
Later for you.
Yeah, and I really think it's much more extreme. I think it's a dimensional field that humans can't even handle unless you develop yourself in a spiritual way and a consciousness way, and that if you don't, there can be like consequences that you go haywire, like your own inability to be in. What I was shown is that humans will have to be not protected. They'll have to be protected from this field, from this environment, if they can't handle it.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that where it's much more shocking. And hey, hey kitty.
Sorry.
That's sweet. I love it. Yeah, so and then the people who have this information will just be scolded for decades later for not telling the rest of the population or not helping us with this at all, and taking forever as long as they did to make this public.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think actually one of the things I knew too part of the information I was given is there'll be face palming. It'll be like, how did we do this? How did we get to this state? And anyway, I have some of that information, but the whole bottom line is yeah, we are in a scenario that we weren't supposed to be in, or at least they were saying, coming down and saying, here, go about it this way. This will make it all easy for everybody. And I think some of their dimensionality actually is so off-putting that the humans they were probably talking to were like, these guys are crazy. Why were you listening to them? And so they're also having trouble trusting them. I think there was a bit of that too, that they're just not advanced enough. Government people are A-type personalities. They're not interested in spirituality. So they're hearing this stuff and they're probably not believing half of it. And so they're thinking there's deception along the way and they don't trust them and all that stuff. And I can imagine.
Yeah, and that's too bad for them. But I think that overall, I think the lesson here, and I'm going to sort of close it off because we're getting a bit, but I think the big lesson here is that, like getting back to what you were talking about in terms of like creating your own environment and all that, is that if you are in a situation where you are spiritual and if you envision a positive outlook and you're spiritual and you look within, then you can create this positive.
You can. You create, and there could be something crazy going on, but you can actually vision your outcome through it. Exactly. Yeah. And they actually, in the Mystic book that they gave me, they 100% emphasize you are going to have this power. There might be a time where you actually need it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is what this is about. There might be earth changes and you vision your family, you vision your friends, you vision people's outcomes and safety and happiness and joy and love. And you vision it. Yeah. You vision the outcomes you want. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we can definitely create our reality with all that. So everybody's seeing the cat.
Yeah.
She wants to be part of the show. This is Billy. But so I want to just say thank you again.
Awesome.
Jeff, we really went around the sun and back on this one. And I think that and Millie too. And so I think that we have a lot to look forward to. I personally don't see the negativity. Yeah. I know that there's certainly be certain earth changes. I know that that's coming. That goes back to the dawn of time, that we're going to have earth changes. But I think that if people keep it together, I think if people look in, if people have like a spiritual practice and are calm and relaxed inside, I think that from what I've been hearing is that, yes, there are going to be some changes, but that we're going to be fine. We're just going to have to just work it through, Yeah. And I think that we're going to be okay. So Beautiful. I don't see a problem. There's nothing to be worried about. So for all of you who are still here with us and who are still, listening to us, there's nothing to be worried about. It's just a matter of being positive and working in your creation and knowing that we're going to be fine.
Beautiful. So, love it.
All right. Well, thank you again to everybody.
Love your cat. It's so cute.
Yeah. So thank you again to everybody for being with us this evening. Thank you again, Jeff, for a beautiful, mind-bending presentation and with technical issues and all. But we all had such a good time and we learned so much. I know I learned a lot. And there you go. So in addition to technical issues, we had kitty issues as well. So why not just throw everything in? So
Awesome.
Thank you again, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Great.
And I'll be putting more information down below for Just Solver. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me, Crystal.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
Take
Awesome.
care.
Take care.